Today we're gonna have a first look at all of the Terran units and structures in StarCraft Remastered. As I'm sure many of you are aware, later this month, the remastered version of the 1998 classic does indeed launch. And over the last couple of days, I have been playing this beta version of the game that Blizzard gave me access to a little while ago. Now, a lot of people have been having questions, and I figured the best way to go ahead and showcase what this game is all about is just by simply starting up with a very basic set of 3 videos where I just simply create all units and all structures for all 3 races. And today, first off, we're gonna have a look at the Terran pieces. So let's go ahead and send the SCVs to mining and produce some more of them. So I'm right here in the game on Fighting Spirit, one of the maps, and you know, I'm not actually playing against an opponent. I'm just simply playing all by myself in this map just to simply showcase to you exactly what is going on. And I hope that if you've got any questions, you'll go ahead and leave them down below the subscribe button in the comment section of the video. And of course, if you're watching this, make sure you subscribe as well while you're at it, because you know, you're gonna miss a lot of StarCraft videos otherwise, and I most definitely do plan on creating a ton more StarCraft Remastered content over the course of the next couple of months, because I'm not gonna lie, I've been playing this quite a bit as of late, and it is a ton of fun. Now, I did also make a video in the past explaining exactly what the differences are between StarCraft Remastered and the original game, so I'll go ahead and leave a link to that video down below in the description as well. I made that right when they first announced it. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the most basic of Terran buildings, and that is, of course, the supply depot. Now, the supply depot, I mean, I'm not sure if anyone is going to be surprised of that one. We are going to have that if you want to produce more Terran units. Now, one of the really cool things about Remastered, right, I'm not going to really bother about my minerals and Vespian gas and this game, by the way, but one of the really cool things about Remastered is that I can switch on the fly between the remastered graphics and the classic ones. Look at this. Isn't that one of the coolest features? I think that's really, really cool. So this is what the game originally looked like. I can press F5 on the keyboard, and let's just go ahead and construct another one of those depots. But I can hit F5 on the keyboard to immediately jump to the remastered graphics. Now, for now, we'll go ahead and get started here with some more structures as well. Let's go ahead and create ourselves the very first of the important tech structures for Terran, and that is, of course, going to be none other than the Barracks. Now, back when this game first launched, right, I personally did not play it very much whatsoever. I knew that it existed, but me and my friends were very busy. You know, I was in primary school at the time, right? It's been a little while. Anyway, me and my friends were very busy playing none other than Heroes of Might and Magic. That was kind of our game, and while I heard of StarCraft, I hadn't really played it very much. Now, I do know that a ton of you will have some crazy nostalgic feelings to a lot of the original graphics and commands and audio and, you know, all those kinds of things. So I figured it's about time I show you what it all looks like. Anyway, we're producing ourselves a refinery right here as well. Let's go ahead and, I don't know, create probably up to like 4 depots or so, just so we can, you know, produce some units for the foreseeable future. Now, one of the things I quickly realized, by the way, while playing online against some real opponents as well, is that this game most definitely is very different than StarCraft 2. I mean, I'm obviously a StarCraft 2 player for many, many years at this point. I mean, I've been producing daily content for StarCraft 2 for pretty much the last couple of years. But this game is a very different one compared to StarCraft 2. I mean, it definitely feels a lot more bare bones, but not necessarily like in a bad way. I know bare bones may sound very bad, but I don't mean it in a bad way. It's very cool to see how this game plays out, and I actually gotta say, I really like this setup. There's, you know, a bunch of spellcasters, but all of the units and structures available are pretty straightforward. You can most definitely see where the StarCraft 2 units came from. Anyway, let's go ahead and create ourselves a factory right here as well, and very shortly, I'll also queue up a starport as soon as I can. Now, here we go. The first primary unit that is available, besides of course the SCV, we have none other than the Terran Marine. Rock and roll. I love those voice lines. Anyway, once again, I can switch on the fly between the original graphic settings right here. We can walk around just like that if we want to, but I think that after playing for quite a few hours already, I'm gonna stick to the remastered graphics as much as I can. Now, of course, in order to produce the other Terran units, there's no tech lab or reactor or whatever in StarCraft 1. We're gonna have to produce an academy first off to start off the production of the medic as well as the firebat. So I'll go ahead and simply produce that one right over here. Now, of course, in case you're completely unfamiliar with StarCraft 1 and you don't know the plans that I'm having for this game, I will be doing a full playthrough of the entire campaign, including StarCraft, you know, the original game, as well as the StarCraft Brood War campaign. I have personally not played that ever in my life, so it should be a lot of fun. I am really looking forward to it. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started right here with a starport as well, and we'll produce the most basic of the Terran factory units here in a little bit after starting up my academy units here instead. Let's just go, you know, from barracks units into factory units and then eventually into the starport units too. Another thing, of course, that I can build here very shortly out of my Terran command center is indeed the ability to scan my opponents. We'll just have to wait for the academy here to finish up, which will be about a second. There we go. Let's go ahead and start up the comset tower, which is basically a necessity if you want to actually be able to scan your opponents. Now, here we go. I can produce the next of the most basic units in the game, and it's none other than the fire bat. Of course, in this game, there's no Hellions, there's no hell bats. There are fire bats, however, and they are produced out of the barracks. At the same time, I can go ahead and create myself a medic. Now, in case you want to see, by the way, what they shoot like, I mean, I guess they can kill their brother. Not gonna lie, that does look pretty graphic, but here we go. This is the real, like, scary threat to the Marines, and of course, the fire bats. They deal a lot of damage. They'll be able to blast through these guys very, very easily. Now, there are a couple of, I think these are still, like, beta kind of researches for the game, such as, for example, the icon right here for Stimpack. I've noticed a couple of those in the game as it is right now. The Stimpack icon doesn't look quite as polished as, for example, the Marine attack range. Now, I'm not gonna bother with all too many upgrades, but we'll go ahead and get the Stimpack one. If I'm not mistaken, in StarCraft 1, there is no such thing as units changing, like, you know, their appearance when you get a research done. So I'm pretty sure that, you know, I really have no reason to produce every single upgrade that is available. But we'll go ahead and get Stimpack here nonetheless. Now, of course, we got the Terran Marine that can be hit right here by the medic. And immediately the medic is going to be able to, you know, heal him back up to full HP. Now, there's one more Terran barracks unit that I will be able to create here in just a little bit, and that is, of course, the Ghost, but I think he's gonna be the finisher. I think we'll go ahead and nuke our own base here in just a little bit. Now, speaking of which, I am gonna need another command center for that, so let's produce that right here, right below my very first one. Alrighty, next up, we'll go ahead and discuss the factory. Now, in order to produce all of the units from the factory, I am indeed gonna need a machine shop. Now, once again, I'll occasionally switch over to the graphics that are from the original game. Look at that. I mean, I haven't even played much StarCraft back in the day, and it still gives me nostalgia. Now, of course, by the way, in case you're unfamiliar, like, they have changed, you know, the graphic settings in the game. They have added, like, a proper ladder system and all kinds of things outside of, you know, just simply playing the matches. However, mechanics-wise, right, the game is literally the exact same. I mean, I can still go ahead and only select 12 units at once. I cannot hotkey several buildings at one hotkey instead, and you're still gonna need a lot of skill in order to play this game properly, which is one of the main attractions to it for me personally. I mean, of course, in Korea, this game is still very, very popular. StarCraft 1, that is. If you would, you know, mess with the in-game mechanics, this game would not be popular whatsoever. But it's awesome to see how bare bones this still is. Anyway, so we got ourselves the Terran factory. It's currently producing our very first vulture. Now, what I will create right here is the ion thrusters ability. And the ion thrusters, they're pretty cool because they basically are a movement speed increase for the vulture. One of the things that I personally did not really realize, or kind of forgot about, I guess, is the effectiveness of speed upgrades in this game. Now, of course, the vulture will go ahead and create some spider mines on him as well, but I'll go ahead and just simply, you know, patrol those guys back and forth here for a little while. Come on, get over here. We'll go ahead and just simply patrol these guys back and forward for a little while, and you'll be able to see how much faster they move after this Terran machine shop finishes up as well. Next up, we'll create ourselves a siege tank. Now, of course, in order to actually siege up a tank in this game, you are going to need siege mode, which is another research that you need to get. And while we're at it, by the way, speaking of which, I'm going to go ahead and create myself an armory, as well as the engineering bay, which is of course, the basic upgrade structures for the Terran mech army, as well as the Terran biological units. So just keep an eye out right here, right? If you haven't played much StarCraft 1, speed upgrades in this game for all units are absolutely incredible. So look how slow they move right now. And now with the speed upgrade done, it seems like they move like more than maybe even twice as fast as they originally do. I'm sure that someone can let us know the precise numbers on it. I haven't really bothered looking it up myself, but The speed difference between some of these units is absolutely substantial. Like, the same goes for a lot of the flyers. For example, Zerglings, even the Ultras upgrade for the Zerg that I'll go over next in the next video. You know, those upgrades are very, very significant, and they make a big difference. Next up, we'll go ahead and research the spider mines right here as well. And as soon as the Terran armory is done, I'll be able to also produce myself the Goliath. Now, of course, the Goliath, sort of like a landed Viking, I suppose, if you are familiar with StarCraft 2. That's sort of like a mini Thor in a way as well. And while we're at it, we'll produce a control tower right here on the Starport, so I can quickly produce all of those units right here as well. Engineering bay is done. I mean, that will allow us to go ahead and produce, of course, you know, well, we'll go ahead and create every structure, I suppose. But we'll be able to now produce missile turrets, and at the same time, I want to create another one of those bunkers as well, which I'm not going to be able to do a whole lot with in this game, but you can at the very least see what they will look like. Now, once again, if I switch back to the original graphics, and by the way, of course, engineering base, yes, they can still fly. You're going to be able to see exactly what the differences are. I mean, it is cool, though. It is cool. I've heard a lot of pro gamers make the argument that playing in letterboxing with 4:3 aspect ratio is actually better if you want to quickly dash around the screen and you're familiar with camera hotkeys and all that. But regardless, I think I'm just going to play in the good old 16:9 aspect ratio that I am personally so very used to. Anyway, now, next up, we got our siege tank out, right? But I can't quite siege it up just yet. So we got a siege tank. It deals, I believe, 30 damage per shot, which is pretty good. So it's going to be able to, you know, do quite a bit of damage right there. But the real strength, of course, of the siege tank is indeed when it's sieged up, which is when it will start hitting 70 damage per hit instead. And on top of that, it will also deal splash damage, which is very significant. Now, I did research spider mines just now. Of course, I'm sure you know what spider mines do. I found personally out the hard way how much damage they did when I was playing some good old Protoss myself. I walked my Dragoon army over some of these things, and they quite literally blow up all of your units. Now, the AI is a little bit buggy. Of course, the pathing, once again, you know, I say buggy, right? But I know a lot of Brood War players are a little bit sensitive of that word. I mean, more or less like a feature. A lot of the bugs that, you know, are very apparent in this game have more or less turned to features over the course of the last, you know, 2 decades or so that this game has been available. Regardless, Siege Tank is now going to be able to siege up just like that. And it's going to be able to start dealing a little bit more damage. Let's go ahead and shoot at my own units. Now, of course, it won't deal splash damage, you know, to my own units. But you can see the damage output. It is very significant. It is very, very significant. Alrighty, time for the Goliaths. Now, the Goliaths, of course, they are very good. They are sort of like the mech anti-air unit as opposed to siege tanks and vultures cannot shoot up. But other than that, you know, they are a pretty straightforward unit as well. Next up, I think I'm gonna go ahead and queue up some of the Starport units right here for the Terran Dominion as well. We'll queue up a Wraith. We'll go ahead and queue up a dropship, not a medevac. Different kind of unit entirely. And we'll go ahead and pick up a Valkyrie here too. In order to produce the science vessel, as you may have already noticed, we are going to need an attached control tower as well as a science facility. And in order to produce a battle cruiser, we're going to need a science facility with a physics labs to it as well. And we'll go over those two in just a little bit. Anyway, here's the Goliath. Now, I know that some of you will have some nostalgia for the anti-air sound. You ready for it? Not gonna lie. I've watched the fair share of StarCraft 1 esports. It is a very typical sound, but of course they are also very well known for their pathing. I mean, if we try and walk them down a ramp, ooh. Well, that actually didn't go as bad as I had anticipated, but sometimes these guys tend to bug out just as much as the Dragoons do for the Protoss units. They just simply like, sometimes like, well, that wasn't even too bad either. But sometimes you give them a command to move across the map, and they literally just stand there and they walk the exact opposite direction. I'm not entirely sure what that is all about either. Anyway, here's our Wraith. Now, the Wraith, of course, we can cloak it up. I don't really feel like researching cloak. I mean, it looks the exact same thing. If you want to see the graphics change right there. By the way, the terrain does make it a little bit trickier to see exactly what's going on. But here's the Terran dropship. If you want to bring, you know, ways of healing up your targets as well, you're going to have to bring a medic. But here, indeed, we are going to be able to drop off our units just like that. There we go. Very straightforward unit. There's no boost on this one available or anything else along these lines. It's just going to be the good old dropship. That's going to be, well, good for dropping off, you know, units off in your opponent's bases. Alrighty, here we got the Valkyrie. Now, the Valkyrie, of course, also known as an anti-air unit primarily. It deals a lot of damage. It only actually deals 6 damage per rocket, but it launches like a volley of How many is it? I think it's like 4 waves of 2. I think it's 8. Yeah, I think it's about 8 right there. And of course, it does deal splash damage as well before it needs like a little bit of a pulse right there. But it deals a lot of damage. And of course, it's one of the best anti-air units in the game. Next up. Oh, actually, we got the Wraith already. I was going to say, did I really produce anything else? Nope, we did not. Next up, we'll have to produce ourselves 2 science facilities. Because we still need to produce ourselves the Ghost. And we also still need to produce ourselves the science vessel and then the battle cruiser too. So let's go ahead and make 2 of these buildings here instead. So let's go ahead and make one over here. And we'll put the second one right next to it, just because we can. Have to make sure that there's some room on the right side right there. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to do what they are so very well known for. But in order to create a nuke, and I think we'll have to end this video with me nuking my own base. I found out the hard way that nukes do a lot of damage in this game. We'll need to construct 2 science facilities. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, science facilities do have 2 different kinds of add-ons that you can produce on them. Sort of like in StarCraft 2, like you have the tech lab and the reactor. You know, we have the machine shop right here for the factory, and then we have the control tower for the starport. There are 2 attachments right here on the science facility. First off, we can create a covert ops, which you may have already guessed is indeed going to be for the Ghost. I love that little sound.
Yes, sir?
So good. Same for the academy sound, by the way. Listen. I mean, that's a classic sound right there. All of these sounds are classics. Anyway, we got that Terran science facility adding on. That tech lab, or that covert ops, what's it called? Covert ops add-on. And now next up, we'll go ahead and create ourselves the physics labs as well, which is what we're gonna need if we want to produce the battle cruiser. Now that I've produced the Terran covert ops lab, I can get some more additional upgrades right here for the Ghost in particular. Now go ahead and produce one of those. We'll produce a couple of them, I suppose. And at the same time, now that I've got that covert ops building done, I can create a nuclear silo on my Terran command center, which is going to take a little bit of time. And I'm going to be able to arm that with none other than a tactical nuke. At the same time, I think it is time for us to go ahead and produce a battle cruiser as well. Of course, battle cruisers in this game, compared to StarCraft 2, are actually really good. I guess the StarCraft 2 ones are good too, but, you know, usually they're a little tricky to actually, you know, get out and produce. Here we go. Did anyone call for an exterminator? We have none other than the Terran Ghost available. We'll be able to arm that nuclear silo here in just a little bit, and I guess I'll rally off my battle cruiser in this direction here as well. Quick little switch over once again with the classic graphic settings here instead. It looks great. I mean, I don't think anyone could really fault it either. Like the graphics of the original, for, you know, considering this game is from 1998, right? It definitely does not look bad in any way, shape, or form, but I do have to say I prefer the remastered edition instead. I mean, apparently it scales all the way up to 4K textures, which is most definitely gonna look for, it's gonna look good for at least like another 2 decades to come, right? Maybe even longer than that, although we'll see where technology is at in like 2 decades. Anyway, we got our nuclear silo done. Let's go ahead and arm it. Ready? Am I gonna need, alright, sorry guys. We're gonna have to destroy that. Let's go ahead and create ourselves one of those nukes. And of course, very shortly, I'll be able to showcase to you the last of the premier Terran units as well in the battle cruiser. Now let's double check real quick. I'm pretty sure I produced every single last of the units. There it is. Battle cruiser operation. I won't do that again. I won't butcher your ears like that again. But here it is.
Receiving transmission. Make it happen. Engage. Make it happen.
I like that they changed like the unit portraits as well. Set the course.
Make it happen.
So good.
Engage.
So good.
Set the course.
And I mean, that is about it. Other than the fact that I still want to nuke my own base, this is about all that is available right here for the Terran Dominion. I'm just gonna double check if I produced every single last of the buildings. I'm pretty sure that I did. But the nice thing that I really like, right? So I've been playing this for a couple of days, and I'm primarily a multiplayer kind of guy, right? The thing that I really like about this is the fact that all of the units have a very, like, defined purpose, right? Whereas in StarCraft 2, there's sometimes a little bit of overlap and maybe a little bit of muddiness between the different units. This game is very distinct when it comes to, well, I guess the roles of the units. Anyway, let's go ahead and get this Terran Ghost in position. Let's land the nuke. There it is. It's gonna take off. Now, there is a tiny little red dot there, and I guess you can assume what will happen here in a little bit. Now, indeed, once again, compared to StarCraft 2, nukes in this game are actually absolutely terrifying. I don't think anything is gonna survive, with maybe the exception of the battlecruiser. The battlecruiser will live for a little while longer, and so will some of my buildings, you know, slowly burn down. But regardless, I hope this gave you a solid introduction to all of the Terran units in StarCraft Remastered. If you have not already, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, make sure, of course, to hit that subscribe button, because there's a ton of StarCraft Remastered content coming your way. Other than that, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I will see you in the next one.